2 book hauls in a row. Kaylee, do you actually read the books that you're hauling? Yes, I do, self, but it's been a little busy. Last week was kind of a doozy. My daughter was sick and she stayed home from school, and then I caught it, as is parenthood. The puppy has also been proving to be quite a bit more difficult than he was initially. I'm here now. I'm recording a video. Let's move on. I'm splitting my March book haul into 2 parts because I've already got like 11 books so far this month, and I've got like 10 more coming in. Blame the Bailey's long list because I didn't own most of those books. It was my intention to post some reviews on books that I had read recently, but unfortunately those books have recently made it onto the Bailey's long list for fiction. Later on, I want to make a video reviewing books that I think will make it onto the short list, but I don't want to do that yet because the short list is going to be announced in April, and I want to do a video of my predictions for what will make it onto the short list from the long list. Therefore, I am reading a bunch of books that are on the long list, so I've been very busy. So let's get going. First, I'll do these 3 that I bought together as kind of one, and then I'll kind of go into a little bit about them. I ordered the vintage classics of these Russian novels. So the 3 go as follows. This is The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Cool. From what I know, this is a satire about the Soviet Union, and it kind of has a bunch of funny, whimsical aspects of it. I don't know exactly what it's about. I've heard that it's incredible. It is a bit shorter than the others. Shorter. We'll see. But I'm thinking about doing like a Russian summer, maybe like where I read these books, and then I also want to read War and Peace, which I already have. I don't know, that's a lot. Those are some hefty books. But yeah, I really have no idea what this is about because I just tried reading the French flap description. This gives nothing away, although I will say, on the subject of French flaps, look how pretty. The next one is Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman. This is described as the 20th century War and Peace, where it basically shows the intertwinings of a bunch of main characters, and in this circumstance, it's the Shaposhnikov family. This book was set for publication back in the 50s, but it was rejected by the Soviet Union because it was, I don't know, not painting the Soviet Union in such a pretty light. So it ended up being smuggled into the West and published in 1980 or so, or in the 80s. I'm not sure. But anything that was banned or controversial is good reads. I'm interested. I'll read it. Speaking of banned books, we'll move on to Dr. Zhivago by Boris Pasternak. This takes place during the Bolshevik Revolution, and it follows a poet and doctor who is kind of struggling with the new revolution. He is also torn between family and his love for a woman named Laura, who is the wife of a revolutionary. This was rejected by the Soviet authorities, was smuggled out, published in the West, and Boris was offered the Nobel Prize, which he had to reject. He had to turn it down. He couldn't accept it. But it still won the Nobel Prize, so like I said, controversy, tea spilling, it's fine. I didn't want to wear this white shirt today anyway. Gosh darn it. Nope. Oh, why yes, I do have a brew today. It is Lady Grey, as I wipe my arm covertly on my skirt. Okay, so we continue our Russian theme with a very exciting book, and it's exciting because I got to meet the author last week. This is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. You might have heard of Amor Towles because he wrote The Rules of Civility, which was a New York Times bestseller several years ago. I haven't read that book. I am almost done with this one. I mean, I've got like a third of it left, so I'll have this done probably by tomorrow. This also takes place during the Bolshevik Revolution, and it follows a man named Count Alexander Rostov. In his younger years, he wrote a poem that didn't flatter the regime at the time, so he was sentenced to live forever at the hotel, which is called the Metropole, indefinitely. He was told that if he steps outside of the Metropole ever again, he will be shot. And right out the gate, that's a really intriguing premise. I mean, can you imagine living at a hotel? I mean, a luxurious one, but a hotel for 30-something years? Because I can't. But after reading this book, I mean, it doesn't seem so bad. But the story is about him trying to find his purpose again, finding a meaning, and learning to view the world through the eyes of other people that he encounters, meets, and becomes closely acquainted with. So far, this book is so charming and witty and funny, and it's about events that take place during a historical time, but the novel itself is not very historical. I mean, you learn things. The most surprising thing that I learned talking to the author was that he did little to no research. It's impressive. And when I went to meet Emmett Trolls, I decided to buy his first book, Rules of Civility, which is something that's been on my to-read list forever. It's about a 25-year-old woman named Katie and her chance encounter with a man that kind of springs her into the New York socialite elite and her kind of experience of that encounter. Thank you, Millie, for the shaking. The next few books are on the Bailey's long list, and I am really excited to read them. The first novel is Barkskins by Annie Proulx. I love Annie Proulx. I have so many of her books on the shelf behind me. That's my Annie Proulx, Alice Munro, and Allie Smith shelf. This story follows two men in France in the 17th century, and in exchange for land, they agree to work as woodcutters for this man. I don't know his name. One of the men suffers extreme hardship and he's really oppressed and he's forced to marry this woman that he doesn't want to marry, and then the other man escapes and runs away and starts a fur trading business. So the story follows their descendants down the line of 300 years, spanning multiple continents and kind of just experiencing how these different descendants intertwine and the lives they live throughout all this time. So I am really excited to read this. It's pretty hefty though. And if my synopsis is not correct for any of these, please understand, it's a complete accident. I don't know much about these books. I just hear the exposition and I say, I want to read that, and then I read it. That's how it works. This next book is not on the Bailey's long list, much to everyone's shock and horror. Just by saying that, you probably already know what it is. Homegoing by Ya Jasi. This story follows two sisters separated at birth in Africa. One goes on to become a slave, and the other is kind of married off ultimately to a slave owner. So it follows their descendants, much like Barkskin's kind of premise. It's very similar. The next book is The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. This follows the story of a woman named Maggie and her relationship and marriage with an artist named Harry, who is fluidly gendered. So this book at its heart is about queer family making, mothering, family dynamic. I'm assuming some sort of societal pressure, and it's a short read, which is a welcome reprieve from the tombs I have here. The next book is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. Anna over at A Case for Books recommended this highly. I'm really excited to read it. It is a retelling of an old Russian folktale. I'll report back. The next book was recommended by Eric over at Lonesome Reader, and it is Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. I have not read any Anne Bronte. I've only read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is Anne Bronte's, I think, first novel. Before she became a writer, she was a governess for a family. And this book is kind of talking about her experience as a governess and about how wealth can morally corrupt people and her experiences. I'm gonna give it a shot. Also, I got this beautiful cover because it's pretty. And the last book I have to show you is Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. This book explores the history of humankind and how 100,000 years ago there were 6 kinds of humans walking around. And now we just kind of are one. We're Homo sapien. So this talks about the progression through time and how we ultimately got to where we are. My dog found the squeaky toy. It basically explores how we came to certain kinds of cognition, how we learn to respect authority, and where we kind of go from here. Where is the species going to be in the next millennia? Are we going to have more than one type of human? Are we going to be a completely different kind of human? It sounds like all the geekery that I could want in a book. All right, well, that is part 1 of 2 of my March book haul. I'm expecting more books today or the next day. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I'm really interested, especially in the Russian ones. I've heard mixed reviews about them. Some say they're stuffy, some say they're really hard to read. I think that it really depends on the translator. Having said that, I will see you next time.